Thank you so much for coming to our webinar. My name is Louisa. Next slide, please. And I help individuals with autism, ADHD, and burnout. Our topic this evening will be the power of journaling for your mental health. I'm really excited to be speaking to you about this topic because I used to be terrified of writing. I felt intimidated by it, but I really wanted to build the habit. More specifically, I wanted a sort of time capsule of my thoughts throughout the pandemic. So I buckled in, and in the beginning, it was quite difficult to get over the hump of feeling like I'm writing to nobody. But when I was finally able to reframe it as a conversation between myself and my future self, my writing became a lot more natural. Since March 2020, I've written 1,600 entries in an app called Day One, which I'll get to a little bit later. So if you're interested in starting this same journey, you're definitely in the right place.
Next slide, please. Hi, everyone. I'm Eden. I support individuals with depression, stress, and challenging relationships. My experience with journaling started with coming across a girl named Amanda Lee on YouTube. In her channel, she would post a video every month of her journal setup, including a monthly calendar, weekly spreads, goals, and to-do lists. And I was not only inspired by her organization, but also her creativity. Each month had a theme and a specific color palette. After finding her channel, I decided to start my own journal, taking inspiration from hers. I now sit down every Sunday morning with my journal and I plan out my week. I create to-do lists and I fill out my mood tracker. So for me, journaling has really been a form of stress relief and self-care. Next slide. So our agenda, we're gonna talk about our agenda for tonight. We're first gonna discuss what is journaling, and then we're gonna talk about why you should journal and how it's good for your mental health. We're gonna give you some tips for journaling. We're gonna give you some types of journaling, some recommendations, and then at the very end, we're gonna do an at-home exercise. Next slide. So what is journaling? The beauty of journaling is that it's totally unique to you and can serve whatever purpose you need it to. Journaling is a great tool for practicing mindfulness and keeping us in touch with ourselves. Some people use journaling as a way of keeping a written record of any thoughts or feelings they may have. Some people use journaling as a creative outlet to write stories, poems, and ideas. Others use it to keep them organized and prepared for the weeks and months ahead through making calendars and detailed lists. It's also common to use journaling as a way to keep track of your mood and any habits that you're trying to maintain. A combination of multiple or all these things is very common. But however you decide to use your journal is completely up to you, and it can change and evolve over time. Nothing is set in stone. Next slide, please. So why journal? Next slide. So studies have shown that journaling thoughts and feelings after experiencing a negative emotion or event allows for greater self-awareness. In an interesting study done with nurses, it was found that daily journaling had a positive effect over time in terms of their ability to handle stress, increase their self-compassion, and decrease feelings of burnout and compassion fatigue. Visual journaling, which includes drawing, doodling, and coloring, was also shown to significantly reduce levels of stress and anxiety. And it's also been shown that keeping a journal where you can express gratitude improves your outlook and quality of life and decreases physiological stress and symptoms of depression. Next slide. Studies also prove that daily journal writing can reduce stress and anxiety. It can help you cope with trauma and big life changes. It sharpens memory, cultivating calm and deepening focus. It improves sleep and immunity, and strength and confidence in self-esteem. Next slide. So the beauty of a journal is that it allows you to write everything down. When we have large to-do lists and an extremely busy week or month ahead of us, it's easy to get quickly overwhelmed just thinking about everything we have to do. When we can take a few moments to sit down and write out everything on our mind, whether it's an organized list or calendar or simply a brain dump of anything and everything, It's literally a physical manifestation of getting things off your chest, and there's some immediate relief in doing that. The same thing goes for our feelings and emotions. Taking a few moments to reflect and be mindful of our current and previous mental states may not necessarily resolve those feelings, but it will allow us to take steps to resolve them, which may not have occurred if we just let those feelings pass us by. Using prompts to get in touch with these emotions can be really useful as well. So, an example of a prompt could be, how does my body feel today? Do I notice any tension in parts of my body? Another prompt could be, is there anything that has happened in the past 48 hours that has most likely contributed to the way I'm feeling right now? So lots of prompts you can use to really get in touch with yourself and be mindful. Next slide.
So here we have 7 tips for low maintenance journaling. So setting yourself up for success when journaling is imperative if you're trying to build the habit of doing it regularly. When we do things like preset our environments before writing or keep our journals in a safe space so that no one can access them, the process comes with ease because we've set the right environment and circumstances to allow ourselves to write without distraction or pressure. A few things we can do to create this environment are, next slide, please. Tip number 1, use our 5 senses to set the mood. Think of the last time you felt cozy, like cozy, and try to recreate that feeling in your space. You can burn a scented candle, roll on lavender essential oil, play music, drink tea, wrap yourself in your favorite blanket, or simply just ask Alexa to play a fireplace on YouTube. Pay attention to your body. What are you wearing? Is it tight? Is it loose? Do you need silence? What type of lighting makes you feel most relaxed? You'd be surprised how much physical comfort can affect your inner peace and be restorative for both your body and mind. Accommodate your preferences and repeat them each time you write to pair your unique setting with your productivity, so that whenever that YouTube fireplace comes on, your brain kicks into drive and signals to your body it's time to write. Next slide is tip number 2. Only journal when you feel like it and how you feel like it. Journaling is meant to be explorative and therapeutic, not a task on your to-do list. If you don't have the time or capacity to do it today, don't. The key is to rewire our brains to think of it as an easy, positive experience rather than hard. And nothing makes something harder than not being in the mood to do it. Next slide is tip number 3. Avoid getting stuck on your penmanship, grammar, spelling, or structure. This was a hard one for me. Perfectionism has no place here. Double dot an I by accident, scratch something out, test out your pen on the top right corner of the page. Repeat after me. I'm in control of this experience. Doodles and scratches are honest. Give your entry character and tell a story about where you were on the day that you wrote this entry. When you examine these mistakes, can you see the story emoted by the gaps? Can you identify if you were feeling tired, confused, depleted, inspired? The little mistakes you make in your text also indicate the velocity at which you were typing or writing. Did you miss a few words? Were you perfectly focused? There's more to a journal entry than meets the eye. Next slide, please. Tip number 4 is no judging. Be aware of judging yourself. I feared my own self-judgment when I started journaling, but the good news is journaling is about the journey, not the destination. You don't need to read them back, but if you decide to do so, you might notice that reading your old entries will illuminate your personal growth and development. If you get stuck down the, oh gosh, did I really write that? Or I don't want anyone to know that I thought that rabbit hole, take a moment to meditate on the fact that only you are going to see it. It may be difficult, but attempt to practice the self-compassion needed to be imperfect on this paper. Next slide, please. Tip number 5, keep it in a safe space or safe place. Make it a priority to keep your journal safe at all times. If it works best for you to journal on pen and paper, try to pick up a journal that has a lock on it. The better you feel about the security of this book, the more confident that you will feel nobody will read it, the more vulnerable and explorative you'll be, which is kind of the point. Next slide, please. Tip number 6 is write intuitively. Let your writing flow to wherever feels natural. Try not to silence your voice or censor your thoughts. Your journal is where you can finally be unapologetically you. Its purpose is to bear witness and memorialize your life at this point in time, a marker of who you were and who you are becoming, a favorable option for people who are looking to journal alongside their therapy. Lean into why you wanted to join this journaling webinar today. Take that answer and run with it. Next slide, please. And the last one is tip number 7. Begin by recounting your day and your reflections will come afterward. Journaling makes a great time capsule for the future, should you want one. Even if you only record what you did today, you will own physical copies of your lived experience frozen in time as you on this date at this time. For those of you who enjoy the idea of looking back on entries over the year but have writer's block beyond your day's events, ask yourself, how did you feel about today's events after writing them down? What challenged you? What can you work on tomorrow? Or what were you grateful for? Sometimes the best reflections are just the short ones where we simply record what a normal day looks like for us, because that changes throughout time, right? And sometimes it's really interesting to see what a normal day looked like for you in January 2023, let's say. Next slide, please. So in sum, the 7 tips are: set the mood, only journal when you feel like it and how you feel like it, no to perfectionism, no to self-judgment, safe space, safe place. Make sure that your journal is in a safe place where you know nobody will ever be able to read it. If it's physical, hide it somewhere. If it's on your computer, put a password on it. 6th is write intuitively, go with the flow. And the last one is begin with your day and everything will follow. Next slide, please.
So now we're going to talk about some different types of journaling. Next slide, please. So the first type of journaling I'll talk about is gratitude journaling. Gratitude journaling sounds as simple as it is. It allows you to note down the things you're grateful for every day, every week, or as often as you'd like. Expressing gratitude can be really good for us as it makes us reflect on the positive things we have going on in our lives. It can also help to strengthen the connections we have to the people in our lives that we're grateful for, such as family and friends. You can also reflect on other things as well, like your car or your home. You can express gratitude for places that you love, experiences that you've had, good feelings that you felt recently, such as happiness, excitement, or calmness. Next slide. So another type of journaling is daily journaling. As mentioned before, journals have so many different uses. When thinking about how you can use your daily journal, a favorite of many people is to create a page for each day with anything you think would be helpful or beneficial to you. This can include taking note of any important events you have that day, the tasks you'd like to accomplish, or any important thoughts, ideas, or feelings you may have. Next slide. So a very popular type of journaling now is called mood and habit tracking. As you can see from this example of a mood tracker, all the days of that current month are listed and blank for filling in with a color. And each color represents a mood or emotion. And at the end of the day, you fill in each day. In this particular image, this person has gotten more specific, and they decided to divide up their day into AM and PM because sometimes our mood changes throughout the day. And this person has also decided to use blank squares to fill in with color, but a lot of people like to get really creative with this, and instead of squares, they might use blank hearts or flowers or clouds to fill in with color, just to make their journal a little bit more fun and whimsical. What's so great about a mood tracker is that it really allows you to check in with your emotions at the end of the day. And as the month goes on, you may see a trend or pattern in your moods and take note of it. And then at the very end of the month, you'll be able to get a clear picture of how you felt that month and if there's anything that's cause for concern, such as maybe too many periods of stress or sadness. As you can see, habit tracking is also very similar. In this image of a habit tracker, this person has little blank calendars for every habit they are tracking, and then they fill in each day they do the habit. And this is a really great way to keep motivated because the more days in a row you fill out, the more you'll want to keep going. And then at the end of the month, you can look back and see how well you did and what you can do better next month. Next slide. So another type of journaling is creative journaling. Journals are excellent opportunities to be creative. You can use your journal for art, whether it's a sketchbook, coloring book, or scrapbook. A journal is a book with blank pages, so it's really up to the user to fill these pages however they like. But for people who like to be more artistic or creative, it's a really great opportunity to explore color and design as a way of expressing yourself and your mood. The beauty of color is that it has this way of conveying certain emotions that may be more difficult to express in words. So, for instance, someone may choose to use more warm, muted tones in their journal as a way of representing calm and comfort, whereas another person may choose vibrant colors to convey happiness and positivity. Journaling is also an excellent opportunity to add design, whether it's through sketches, doodles, or even fun washi tapes. These designs also have a way of representing us and displaying our moods. You can even use it to record your dreams as a dream journal. You can keep a journal on the table next to your bed, and when you wake up in the morning, take a few minutes to draw or write about the dream you had. It's a really cool way to peek into your subconscious mind. And if you're into creative writing, you can even use your journal to write poems, short stories, or songs. Next slide. So journaling can also be used for planning and organization. So for those who love to feel organized and well prepared, a journal is such a helpful tool to accomplish this. You can use your journal as an agenda or a planner. Each month you can draw a calendar and include any important events you have over the upcoming month, giving you a clear overview of what's to come. And you can even take it a step further. At the start of each week that month, create a weekly spread, including what needs to get done each day, giving yourself time to prepare for the week ahead and just easily stay on track. For those who love lists, I'm someone who loves lists. A journal is a great place to keep daily or weekly to-do lists, and you can make little boxes next to each item on the list and check them off as you go. You can even keep grocery lists or even a packing list if you're traveling. Next slide, please. So the last type of journaling I'll talk about is bullet journaling. Bullet journaling is a type of journaling that's very unique to the user, and it encompasses anything and everything mentioned from the types of journaling in this webinar. It's called a bullet journal because short forms are used in entries, and typically it's in list form. So you can use symbols to categorize your entries into tasks, events, or notes, and you can really make it fun. So many people use colorful markers or pens to color code different activities. Instead of blank lined pages, a bullet journal, people call them bujos for short, contains sections to log daily to-dos, keep monthly and weekly calendars, jot down notes, track both physiological and mental health, and record both short and long-term goals. Next slide. So your journal is really your own. So, do whatever you want to make it pop, whether that's adding fun tapes, using brightly colored pens or crayons. Really just make it yours. It brings so much happiness and joy. Next slide.
Your journaling made easier. So there's a multitude of ways that one can journal. We can use technology, classic pen and paper, prompted journals, and more. Here we have compiled a list of options we have enjoyed using. Number one is voice notes, so voice recordings. If you can't write by hand, you can use a voice note app on your phone. There's voice notes for iOS and sound recorder for Android, and I'm sure that a bunch of other types of phones and computers have some sort of the same function as well. The next one is Day One. It's a password protected journal, and each one of these recommendations I'm going to go through one by one, so no need to kind of write them down. Day One is a daily mood tracker. So Day One allows us to track our mood and the activities we do each day alongside journal entries. After a month, you will be able to make connections between certain activities and your mood by exporting your data into a PDF. So for example, you can see that exercising appears the most on days where you've rated yourself as feeling great. Or conversely, you can see what comes up when you've rated yourself feeling poorly. Over time, you may journal your reflections based on your habits. So this is a really great app to use alongside therapy. Number 4 is Intelligent Change. That is the brand name, the 5-minute journal. This we will go over in the next few slides. The next one is Intelligent Change, the productivity planner. This is an agenda with reflections after each week. So that's a really great one for somebody who wants kind of more of a routine with journaling, but they're not sure how to start. The 6th one is One Line a Day. So this is a really great option for minimalists. If you want something written down, but you don't want too big of a commitment, then 1 line a day is your go-to. All you need to do is track what you've done each day, something you're grateful for, anything you want, whatever you want, once a day. And over 5 years, you're going to be able to look back on the things that you wrote the year before. So for example, every year on April 5th, I will be able to see the previous entries that were written on April 5th. And the last is the intuition journal, which I will talk a little bit about when we get to that slide. Dailyo. Thank you. Dailyo was the mood tracker that helps us track our mood and the activities that we're doing each day. Day 1 is a password protected journal, and that is the slide that we're on right now. So these screenshots are taken directly from the website. And as you can see, simple to use, easy to love. You can do multiple different things with this app. You can take a picture while you're on the go and throw it in your journal. You can take a voice recording if you don't feel like typing, you're feeling a bit lazy, or you're not sure how, you don't want to deal with all the grammar and all that. You can just throw it in there. Or you can click the text option where you can type. The really great thing about Day 1 is that it's backed up to the Day 1 servers, it's backed up to the cloud, and it's safe wherever you go. So you can put a password on it. And if you have Apple, if you have an iOS device, then you can actually make your password your fingerprint or your face. And then you can get in that way. And that way it's super, super secure. I mean, unless somebody else has your fingerprint, then there's no way they're getting in there. And that makes me feel personally really safe with this app. Next slide. The really great thing about Day 1 is that you can sift through multiple entries at a time in like 2 seconds. If you use that search bar, you can search any keyword, any tag you've written, and it'll come up in seconds. And you'll be able to see every single entry you used with that word or tagline. So like, let's say I want to know all of my entries about my friend Jaden. I can write Jaden and I can see everything I've ever kind of written about this person. And that's pretty cool if we're trying to track and kind of pay attention to patterns and all these different things. We can also look through all of our photos from a photo view, and you can also go to map view where you can see where you wrote different entries in different parts of the world, which is pretty cool. Day 1 also has an option to turn your diary at the end of the year into a book, and it's not even that expensive. It's like $50, $60, which could be expensive for some, but it's just a lot of different apps don't offer that. And they also make it so that you can transfer it into a PDF. So even if you don't want to put it into a book, you have a full document of that year that you can just put away somewhere else. You can export any of the entries that you have in this app into any other format that you want. Day 1 also helps you stay in the habit of things. So it tracks your streaks. So if you write 9 days in a row and you kind of need that motivation to do the 10th day, you can always use it through that view. Or you can set reminders, or you can even set an IFTT where you can kind of connect your texts to the app. So instead of even having to open the app, you just text the number and it inserts it right away for you. So if a lot of steps is something that's stopping you from journaling, then that's a really great option to just get right to it. Next slide, please. These are the platforms that Day 1 is available on. You can get it on iOS and Android. And the best thing is if you have iOS, then it's saved on the cloud. So if you have an Apple Watch, iPhone, iPad, MacBook, it's going to be on all of those things at the same time. So you're never really going to miss a moment where you want to write. Next slide, please. You want to play this video? This is the Dailyo app. So there's no sound to this video, but as you can see, you can select a mood and you can create your own moods if you want. You can customize them. You can also customize the activities. This is the keeping track. So how many days you had that were great, how many days that you had that were poor. change the activities, reminders for each day. So I actually personally used this app for 365 days in a row, which was quite the commitment for me. But at the end, I was able to export it and see all of the different activities that contributed to my amazing moods where I was like, wow, this is the best day ever. And I could also see the things that contributed to that were around on the days where I was not feeling my best. And that's some serious data that was very, very helpful, especially alongside me doing my own therapy. Identifying those things that kind of have an impact on my mood and behavior was really helpful. Next slide, please. So this is the 5-minute journal. Quick peek into what one page looks like. This is great for people who don't know where to start and just want to get something written down. So you have 5 questions here on the page. I am grateful for, what would make today great, and a daily affirmation. So these 3 entries are usually done in the morning, and then at night we have highlights of the day and what did I learn today. Next slide, please. The productivity planner. So I actually have all of these journals on my desk already. This is the 5-minute one. Oops, my background is holding me back from this, but this is the productivity planner. The productivity planner is really great because I work with neurodivergent people, and if you have ADHD, this might be your best friend. It helps you prioritize. It starts with 40 pages of just kind of talking about the psychology around this book and how it came to be. And yeah, it kind of helps you prioritize your tasks, learn how much time each one of your tasks takes so that you're kind of get a little bit better at time management. And then at the end of the week, you can review everything that you did and kind of write a little reflection, and there are prompts to kind of get that going. So if you're only looking to journal once a week and you want it to be very minimal, then this is a really, really great book to use. This is available on indigo.ca and also through their website, Intelligent Change. Next slide, please. So this is the one line a day book. So I'm just going to try to attempt to show you what one of the pages will look like. But as you can possibly see, there's 5 different parts of the page dedicated for 5 different years on October 15th. So that's kind of how you are able to look back on the year before and be like, oh, on October 15th last year, this is what I was doing. And that's kind of how that book works. It's available on Amazon. Next slide, please. The last one is the Intuition Journal. So in this book, a brief introduction explores what intuition really means, the importance of rituals, and the path that the journal will take you on. The rest of the journal is then divided into 4 sections. 1, preparing sacred ground. 2, nurturing the seed. 3, evolving into seedlings. And 4, flourishing into full bloom. Each of these nature-inspired sections covers 13 weeks. So it's kind of like a 13-week program, with each week focusing on a particular aspect of intuition and growth, from recognizing what you need to let go of in life to exploring both the light and shadow aspects of yourself and envisioning what you feel most drawn to in nurture. Drawn to nurture, apologies. A combination of thought-provoking insights, playful interactive prompts, nourishing guided rituals, and space for daily reflections allows users to both tune into intuitive moments and decide on intuitive actions. By spending time with the journal each day, readers embark on a journey of continuous positive perspective shifts. This is a really, really great book. It's been personally very helpful for me, so I just can't recommend it enough. Next slide, please. So we're going to do a group journaling exercise. The entry you write today, if participating, will encourage vulnerability in the words you write tomorrow. What we're going to do is ask ourselves 4 questions. Next slide, please. We are hitting 5:30, so if you need to head out, no problem at all. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. If you'd like to stay, please hang back and join us for this exercise. The first question is, how would I like to journal? So we want to plan, how am I going to do this? Am I going to do this pen and paper? Am I going to use one of these prompted books that I brought up? Am I going to use day one? Am I just going to write in Microsoft Word? It's up to you. The second one is, how am I going to keep my journal safe? This is really important because when I'm working with clients, a lot of the time people say, I don't want somebody to find it. And we don't want that nervousness around this practice, right? It's supposed to be meditative. It's supposed to be vulnerable and explorative and fun and personal. So to keep it safe means that we will have more confidence that it will stay this way. Number 3 is think about your 5 senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, sound. Set the mood. How can you tend to each one of these senses before or while you journal? I can't tell you enough how impactful this can be. It sounds kind of silly, but once you do it, you'll be like, wow, I feel really good. And the last one is, what am I looking for in this process? Why do you want to journal? So we can take about 5 minutes, 5 minutes, and just kind of get these prompts going. And then at the end, we'll do some questions. If you have to head off, that's totally cool. Thank you so much for joining us. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. If you don't and you want to keep writing, please go for it. Thank you, Wayne. I'm going to copy and paste the recommendations just in case anybody wants them in the chat. If nobody has any questions, we might head off for the day. At the beginning, you mentioned a couple of prompts.
I'm going to put that in the chat.
Sure. So the question Christine was asking about is, how does my body feel today? Do I notice any tension in parts of my body? Is there anything that happened in the last 48 hours that has most likely contributed to the way that I'm feeling? Paying attention to our bodies is really important because sometimes our bodies know how we're feeling before our minds do. Our thoughts kind of play catch up sometimes. Okay, if there are no more questions, Ian and I would like to thank you so much for coming. Lastly, we have all of these links. If anybody wants them sent to us, just send a message to Danielle, and we can throw them your way. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming, everyone.